I am back again with the Blessed by Angels podcast, delivering you messages one podcast at a time. Boom. I'm probably not going to put that in there. It's a little bit weird. The holiday season can be sometimes really hard to navigate, and especially for those navigating grief, the holiday seasons are one of the hardest times to get through. And so, just last year, last Christmas, I was going through a really dark night of the soul. And I had this experience with my grandmother, and she helped me to reconnect to her by something that she called memory mapping. And so I wanted to just share with you a segment of that I had recorded a little while ago to also help you experience the magic of memory mapping to help you out in this holiday season. Welcome to the Blessed by Angels podcast. My name is Jenn Gilbreth. Ever since I was a little girl, I have felt deeply connected to the angelic realm. Over the years, I have dedicated my time and energy towards delivering messages from beyond. Yes, that's right. I talk to dead people, although I don't necessarily consider them dead. In many ways, they are much more alive than us in this physical realm. On this podcast, I will be channeling messages from Spirit. Whether you tune in each week for the new messages or feel like picking a message at random, this podcast is designed for Spirit to lead you to the messages for you here and now. These messages have changed the way I view and play in life. I hope that these messages can do the same for you. I've watched as this beautiful white light called upon me to walk within it. It was like this tube with this vortex of energy. And as I walked within this vortex, I felt as though I was releasing any fear, any doubt, any worry, any hesitation. I was able to just release that and to let it go and to step into a new space. And as this tube of light came to an opening, I was in it was like a white room, and there was a fireplace. And I turned around, and my grandma has this beautiful Christmas tree and this beautiful pine tree. And she had this popcorn that she wanted me to string with her so that we could create and decorate this beautiful tree while her and I were speaking in spirit. And so as I was stringing along the popcorn, I was just talking to her, just getting in her space and loving, just being in this loving space with her. She began to explain and to give me some ideas about how I can deepen my own connection with my ancestors. And I've been feeling really called to want to understand more about her side of the family and where they came from and where my great ancestors came from. Not just those who have been in the past that we know about, but those who are further beyond. And tapping into that, because as we know in this podcast, it's all about embracing the medicine within. And that medicine can be passed down generationally, what other people experience to find joy and to find happiness and freedom. And that's really what I'm so excited to dive deeper into. It makes me so dang excited. So she gave me a couple of different ideas of how we can find ways to connect to them during this time of the year. So as we were decorating it, she stopped me and she said, I want you to look around. I want you to focus on what it is that you can see with me right now. And as I was looking around, all of a sudden it was like this tree was in her front room in the house that she had when I grew up. And then she said, I want you to focus on the smell. And all of a sudden I could smell her house. And I want you to focus on what it is that you can hear. And my grandmother had oxygen as well. And so I could hear the oxygen machine. So I went through the five senses as I was brought into that space. And then she said, one amazing tool is creating the time to do mapping. And this is what I did as far as mapping goes. And so I want to share with you in detail about it. So then you can also do this however you prefer to do so. So I was going down the space of mapping, and she talked about focusing on one memory, leaning in with all five senses. Hey there, I wanted to take a brief moment to thank you so much for listening and being a part of Blessed by Angels podcast. I have found that our angelic team wants to help remind us who and why we are earthside at this present moment. The more that we remember the angelic support that we are given, the easier it is for us to live life to the fullest. So if this message or any of the previous messages from the podcast have really stuck out to you, I would encourage you to send them to anyone who you feel could benefit from the messages. Or if you feel prompted, I would love for you to leave a review on any of the platforms that you are listening on. I would love to hear your feedback. Blessings. So I leaned in, and then I remember I was just recollecting and being called into her house. And so I drew out what her house looked like. When we came in from the back porch, we came in from the garage, you could say, and we walked in, and to the left, it would go up the stairs. And if you went straight, it would go down the stairs. And if you were to go down the stairs, you would have to bend over or put your hand, like I'd always put my hand on the ceiling and kind of bend down to go underneath of it. And then I could remember hearing the creaks in the stairs as I walked down. And then I was going downstairs and I was remembering the smells that I had and trying to remember what the house looked like in the rooms. And I focused on some of the fun memories that I had in the basement. And Grandma always did not like when we went in the basement. But she had this really cool comb in her bathroom. It was a huge comb that was on the wall in the bathroom there. And because my grandma was in a wheelchair in the bathroom upstairs, she had this big toilet seat that she put on top of the seat so she could slide onto it. And so when that was on, we didn't touch it. Me and Jesse, we just went to the bathroom downstairs, but we also like to brush our hair with that amazing huge comb. And it was just something that we both cherished and loved so deeply and that we still talk about today. So then she says, okay, I want you to go back upstairs. So I walk up the stairs and I walk into the kitchen, and I drew out what I remember as to where the table was. And they had a circle table, and my grandpa always sat in this one spot. And I remember pictures on the wall of one of my cousins who went to the dances. She had a cabinet that had a bunch of china in it. I remember the window and where that was at. So I took time mapping out how the house was and what I remember and what I could feel and smell and experience in that room. And then I moved into the living room, where in the living room, we talked about the couch, the photos on the wall. One of my uncles, he paints on like saws, and she had one of those. I think she had a couple on one of the walls. And so I was just in that space remembering those things. And as I remembered them with her by me, I was able to feel her even stronger. And I was able to experience those memories in such a beautiful and fun way. And she said the key to mapping is to think of a memory or to think of a person or to think of a place related to a person, and honing in on your five senses, honing in on that which brings you remembrance. And that can be done. So I did that throughout her whole house. Then I was brought to the traditions that I had on Christmas. When we were younger, we would go to her house on Christmas and bring her a gift. And we came to visit for a while. And I just remember coming in on Christmas Day being like, oh, I didn't really want to go anywhere, but going into her house and having my aunts and uncles come and go in that space as well. And then all of a sudden I remembered that my grandma had those, those vanilla, they're not even wafers. They're like I don't know, like those zebra cookies that had like cream puff, like cream filling inside, but they were like the cheap ones. It was like kind of like Oreos, but not Oreos. It was like, I don't know, just like really cheap, nasty cookies. And I just started laughing because all of a sudden I remembered those and I was like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of my grandma. And she was laughing with me. And it just gave me a different space of connection. And I felt so excited and I loved it. And so as she was telling me more about mapping, she talked about, you can map a home, like I said, you can map a childhood home or a room or something that you remember of somebody who you want to connect in with. You can map their face out. So maybe you want to imagine, maybe my grandma, I could draw out, her eyes, her face, her wrinkles, just draw out those things that I remember about her hair and think about, okay, what did she feel like when I was with her? Or what did she smell like? Like bringing in all those five senses in the space of mapping. And you can also do that with someone's personality. You can map out someone's personality. You can, set the intention to call upon that space and to just remember every aspect of their personality because sometimes people can be very dynamic and bold. And then other times they can be very sweet and sensitive. And so really it's setting that time to map map into the space. And not only that is it's giving you a space to call upon their spirit, their higher self, their arm to jump into your space and to be with you and to help you feel their presence and their strength and their love and their guidance. Thank you for tuning in to the Blessed by Angels podcast. It is such an honor to deliver these messages from beyond. If you want to connect deeper to your angelic realm and the support team that you have, I have a plethora of resources on my website at blessedbyangels.org. And of course, I'll leave the link in the show notes. You are connected to the divine. Having divine connection is an innate ability that each and every one of us have. Before we came here, we were spirit. And after we leave this realm, we are introduced back into the spirit world. So having spirit-to-spirit conversations and knowings and understandings are innately and infinitely who you truly are. When we step into this body, we tend to forget. We are not separated from the divine. There is just a lack of remembrance. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, and I look forward to delivering more messages from beyond.